You're listening to Season 3 of the Fairways People podcast, where we share inspiring stories, meaningful conversations, and the voices behind our charity. Each episode offers a closer look at the people and passion that drive us. Hosted by Fairways Managing Director Gareth Webb.
Hello and welcome to another Fairways People podcast. And today I have the one and only Linvoy Primus. Hello, Linvoy.
How you doing, Gareth? You well, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, man. I'm just,
Good.
do you know what? Like, I'm Portsmouth born and bred. I'm a Poppy boy, so it's great to have a legend in my studio. Thank you.
Oh, mate, well, they're kind words, and thank you very much. And I'm glad you're one of the few that still remembers me. It's been a long time ago now, it feels like.
Well, we met a few weeks back, and even still in the city, people come up to you, don't they? You're such a big icon in the city. But what I did, right... Every house in Portsmouth has got to have some sort of Portsmouth memorabilia, surely.
Yeah, okay.
So I was running around the house earlier. The only thing I could find in my son's room was this.
Did you buy that for him, or is that his own one?
Yeah, I forced it on him. No, he brought him up. He is a Pompey fan, but also he is a Spurs fan, so he's been crying every night into his pillow, bless him.
Yeah,
but,
well, I was going to say, you know what? He's happy on one hand, could be really sad on the other, couldn't he?
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, so thanks, Linvoy. I appreciate your time. So I guess just a brief introduction. You're a professional footballer, or you had a massive career in football. Key position was a defender. I think you was about 16 years or so as a senior career is in football.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think you got an injury, and that's what caused your career to end. But you've done some fantastic massive achievements in football, massive achievements in the community for the charity. You've got an MBE. So we've met a few times, and people know you, I believe, as Linvoy the footballer, but I've got to know you on a bit more of a personal level, and actually you're much more than just a footballer. You're actually an amazing human being. But we'll come on to that. So what I'd like to do with all my guests is just start with a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I grew up in Stratford, East London. Lived there for 21 years. Majority of that time lived in a high-rise block of flats. So pretty similar. I wouldn't say like Summertown or Charles Dickens in terms of those areas, but it's very similar. There's a lot of working class people there. There was lots of, I suppose, things going on behind doors that not really many people knew about. But as a community, you really looked out for one another. So I had a sense of that community. Also had a sense of knowing, I wouldn't say what was right and wrong, but definitely had a sense of like, don't get in trouble and things like that. Because trouble for us growing up was probably knocking on someone's door and running off. Then it went to car stereos. Yeah. Then it was nicking car stereos. And then, but for my parents, I thought they were quite strict, but, you recognise now it was love, and they were just trying to keep me out of, the wrong places. But yeah, like I say, it was a childhood that I, in my sense, I understood it in terms of I just wanted to play outside. I just wanted to play football or run around, whatever it was. So mine was about fun and games, really. And but I also recognised that I was probably one of the fastest in my school, one of the fastest in the area. But not that gave you anything, because that running fast don't mean much unless you put it to action somewhere. But I realised that I could do a lot of things that some of my friends couldn't do, and especially with the football as well. So I suppose an interest in sport and everything just came about because there was a natural thing to run, jump and everything. Yeah. So, childhood, I remember it being okay. I didn't know if we were rich or poor, just knew there's food on the table. If I didn't go, if my mum and dad were at work, I had to go to the neighbour's house and wait for them to come and stuff like that. So, the things were seem a bit unnormal now were normal back then.
Yeah. And so did you just go through like the normal schools and secondary schools,
Yeah.
Did you follow that route? Was you academic at school or?
You know what? I had to work hard. There were subjects I liked. I liked English. I liked geography. I liked history. Maths I struggled with. Again, it was always trying to work it out, always working it out. But yeah, I think my parents were always of the thing that, you know, education is a privilege. You know, if you can read and write, you've got a chance, you know, going forward in life, really. So, and I think for them, they were the first. They came over from you know, from the West Indies, first generation, and for them, education wasn't a given. You know, you had to go to school. It was part of your life because they knew that was their only way out of, you know, what they had. So they carried that on to me. So yes, I've done the school stuff. Like I say, I wasn't an A student, but just worked hard to make sure that, you know, I got the best grades I could, really. Not that I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it, put it that way, but I done it.
Yeah. So how did, you touched on a little bit about football. So how did the passion for football start to sort of come through and shine?
Yeah. So it was like anything, I suppose, you know, there's not a lot on TV when you're growing up. You know, there was a time in the day when the TV used to be off, you know, because there's no chat, nothing on, nothing playing, you know.
All channels.
So, yeah. So anyway, the FA Cup was a big moment in the season, football season. And then this particular final was Manchester City versus Tottenham. And I don't remember the Saturday game, but they had a replay in the week and Tottenham won. And there was an Argentinian player called Ricky Villa who scored this amazing goal. And at the time, I watched him and thought, well, if he can do it, so can I. But I think what drew me was the reaction of the crowd. Looking back now, you know, it was that, oh my, look at everybody's excited because this guy scored this goal. And that was it. That's where how the dream started to become a footballer. But I didn't know the pathway. I didn't know, you know, you had to go to schoolboy football or play for a Sunday. I didn't have any idea. So my first game that I actually played was against my teddy bears in the corridor of my flat, my mum and dad's flat. I used to win a couple of games, you know. That was all right. I scored a few goals as well. But I suppose that's where the dream started, through that game. And then after that, because I started to put myself in a position where I could play football all the time, I would. And, you know, I started to get noticed by other kids from other schools because of different things we go to. And there was these two brothers who were meant to be really good, and they spoke really highly of me as well. And I thought, oh, you know, I was only 11. I thought, oh, wow, if they're saying that, it must be okay. And then my friend got me to sign for his little Sunday team. We weren't very good. We used to get beat most weeks. But that's where the journey started, you know. And
the Teddies, I guess, right?
Yeah. And the thing, the Teddies had to go by then. Yeah, Teddies were out. I couldn't take them along. I realised that actually players moved to try and stop you scoring. My teddy bears didn't. But then, yeah, so I think, again, I didn't know how close I was to becoming a professional, but what helped, Gareth, and I think this is the thing that probably helped shape my thinking, the coach of the team, of the Sunday team, wrote to every club in London to get us trials, because he really believed in that we were good enough to go on again. But his main motivation was that he'd been to prison, and he said he didn't want any of us to end up in prison. So his thing was, I'm going to give you an opportunity. He said, I'll get you to the door, but it's up to you what you do next. And he was true to his words. And from those letters that he wrote, clubs wrote back, but Charlton wrote and said, you can bring your team over to play us. And by this time, we were about under 13s, under 14s. And we went and played them. 6 of us got selected to go back. And that's it. That's when the professional side of the game started to take place for me.
Wow. Okay. So, that's amazing. Like, in terms of, you know, that person and then letters to then get you into Charlton Athletic Academy.
Yes.
So, you know, reading up, it seems like your youth career then, when you spent at Charlton, and that's how you developed, and then into the singing. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So it's always, there's a bit of a pathway where you're like, so for 14 to 16, you train twice a week, and then you play either the Saturday or the Sunday, depending on what squad you get selected for. And at that time, I was mostly playing on Sundays. And that was a big experience because I had to, like, my dad was working, so I had to get the bus at like 6 a.m. To meet at, there's a foot tunnel in Woolwich, and walk under that foot tunnel and meet the coach on the other side of the foot tunnel by, say, like 8:30. And I didn't, before that, I hardly ever been on buses. The furthest I've been was like just into like a 20-minute journey, or with my mum to go to the market to get some food and stuff. So all of that, like all this new experience that I was gaining was huge, but I didn't know that that's what would help me, give me the resilience, give me the determination to go on again, because just making that effort to get up that early, to get there, to get picked up, to not have breakfast sometimes because just the timing of it, didn't get breakfast and then go and play a match, then come home and then get ready for school the following day. So it was a big learning curve in that time, but like I say, it helped build something in me that I didn't know I needed to build. And by the time I got to 16, I got offered an apprenticeship, which is the scholarship now. But out of the group that were training together twice a week, there was about 40 of us. Only 5 of us got offered an apprenticeship. So 40 of us together for 2 years, and all of a sudden 35 gone. Literally, I'd never seen them again. And 5 of us went. And then those 2 years were I struggled with physically, mentally, because I was training every day. My body wasn't used to it. Lots of injuries, lots of growing pains. And while you're working yourself out in that, you're seeing your teammates push on and, start to play for the reserves. And then you think, is your chance over and things like that. So those 2 years were difficult. But after those 2 years, I got offered a professional contract, which I was quite surprised about. But that was a dream. I wanted to be a professional footballer. And it came. And you know what? I thought that contract, everything, you could just go, but that contract was probably the easiest one I got.
It's really.
And again, you're taught, and sport's funny really, especially team sport, you're taught to be a team player, teamwork. But yet you've got to be the most selfish person, because if you're not playing well, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to get another contract. So, okay, you want the team to do well, but actually you've got to be playing well enough to get a contract to go again and to go again. So, it's a weird dynamic, really strange dynamic. And
you look at footballers and that, and I think as young men, and you look at it's like you see this bit of a glamorous sort of world, but it's actually really brutal and hard work, isn't it? And I think, I guess, is it like the youth academy and that? Like you look at the hundreds and hundreds of boys and girls that play day in, day out, locally, and they all, that dream of being a footballer. And so many, it's very few, isn't it, that make it? And I guess, is it really that tough, like getting through that youth academy? You really have to work for it.
You have to work, but I think the hardest thing to get your head round now, I think, because obviously when I was coming up and that time, to get into an academy was difficult at that point, but there was always, I realise now there was always a chance, but now there's more options to get into academies, because they are, they've got people on the ground now, whereas before they'd say, well, can he run fast? Can he kick it hard? And now it's like, well, look at his parents. He's this size now. Look at the size of his parents. Will he grow taller? He wants to play in goal. So there's profiling going on all the time. So you might think you're the best of the best in your pool. You get into that big thing. You're like, oh my days, like he's the same age as me, and he's like 7 foot. How's that work? Stuff like that. So it's a lot harder. But I think there's the dreams. The dreams that are sold are unrealistic. That's the problem. There's unrealistic dreams, and it's very, very hard to say to somebody, dream. If you really want to go for it, dream. But it's very hard to say to them that this dream might not be reality. If you're going to pour your life into this, it's not going to give you back what you think. It can be quite devastating. But no one sees that. No one wants to feel that. That's like, I'll ignore that. But as a friend of mine says, sport is 4 funerals and a wedding, not 4 weddings and a funeral. Yeah, because he said the lows. Yeah, he said the way you feel the lows, you never feel the highs in the same way. Yeah. And guaranteed, no matter how well you've done in whatever you think you've done on that day and that moment, there's a funeral around the corner. There's something ready to knock you down around the corner, you know. But it's a bit of a life thing. But I think because sport is put up on a pedestal that everything's great, everything's perfect, you know, that they've got everything they want, so they should be happy. You know, it's far from it. Really, it's a lot deeper and wider.
And what's your views and experience in terms of like mental health amongst football?
Yeah. Well, I think because there's more of awareness now in terms of responsibility, I think this isn't isolated. This is a reflection of society. You know, just that when you're considered to be one of the best, because Gary, if I told you this stat, the numbers are ridiculous, but there's roughly around 40,000 registered football clubs in the UK. Okay, so if you imagine Arsenal and Man City are in position 1 and 2, from there all the way through to 40,000, you've got players within that. Okay, so put it this way: if you're in the top 10% of the 40,000, what's that? 4,000, roughly. So that's the top of the Premier League down to position 4,000. You're in the top percent, getting paid to play. Then you take it down again to just the top 92 teams that are playing. See, it's like it goes down again to 0 point something. If you're in the Premier League, top 20, it's another add another couple of zeros on before that. Yeah. And then if you're international or you're playing in the top 14, you know what, the zeros are too many. But the chances of playing in the top league for a top team are so slim. But everyone believes it's going to be them. And I think that's where the mental health side of it comes in, because the focus is I am. And when you're not that footballer, it's like, who am I? But the reality is the game owes, I believe, owes everybody that comes in it the opportunity to explore who they are, so that if their identity as a sports person goes, they've still got strong enough things around them that let them understand that I'm more than a sports person. Yeah. And I think that's where the mental health issues are starting to ramp up, because it's like I failed, but you were always going to fail when you look at the numbers. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're always.
You say 40,000. That plays registered. I would have said a few thousand.
Yeah. 40,000 registered around there. I've rounded it up. It's about 36 and a half. Something is up in that bit. But that's it there.
And like you say, I guess you can go from hero to zero overnight, can't you?
In a moment.
It's just crazy,
Yeah, in a moment. And I think that's the thing. Social media doesn't help that, because you're getting feedback instantly. Whereas we used to get feedback just from the crowd or the newspapers. Now it's like constant. Yeah. Most of it was, woo!
Now it's,
what's he playing for?
That was keyboard warriors, isn't it? Everyone's
it is. And after time, it's not even somebody on the end of it either. Do you know what I mean? So because that feedback's instant now, you know, the resilience you have to have mentally in this game, you have to start building it from a younger age, because unfortunately, and I'm not just talking about football, I'm just talking about sport generally, because this is always coming. I promise you, any sports person, there's a moment coming where they'll think, why am I doing this? What's the point? You know, and I think if any person forgets the why they're doing it, then that's when, you know, there's a worry. So we've got to keep reminding why they do it. It's because they enjoy it. It's because this is part of them, but it's not everything, you know. So that's the sort of way that will help towards the well-being in some way.
Definitely. Cool. Okay, I've got to come on to Portsmouth, Linvoy. So just talk me, like, as Pompey fans, obviously you're a massive icon in the city, and they named part of the stadium, didn't they? The seating area part. part of you
They
as well.
They did. They gave me a broom as well to sweep up after every game, mate. So, yeah, that was on there.
You just talk me a little bit about Portsmouth and your
Yeah.
highlights.
Okay. So it's really interesting. So when I came into Portsmouth, I came on trial because I had, I suppose I'd fallen out of love with football. I'd just left Reading. There were things going on in football to me personally that I just thinking, what's the point? You're trying to do your best and people are always trying to bring you down or whatever. So the manager at the time, Alan Pardew, was speaking to Tony Pulis and said to Tony, look, Linvoy is too good not to be playing. He said he might not get in your team, but, it'd be a great squad player for you. So Tony said, come and have a trial. So, you know what, I'm 27 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, I've played football for 10 years now and I can only get a trial. Do you know what I mean? I've got to get a trial. And my pride and ego was hurt because I'm thinking, you know what, I played against Tony's teams. He knows what I'm about. So anyway, I went, as soon as I came here, there was about 3 or 4 players that I'd played against and knew reasonably well. So they help me settle in quickly. And then within 2 weeks, I'd played 3 games in 5 days. Milan Mandrick was like, is Linvoy a free transfer? I'll take him. Tony Pulis was like, no, I want to sign someone for $500,000. And Milan was like, no, we'll sign him. So anyway, I signed, and the first season was pretty hectic because we had 3 managers, just avoided relegation. I started off reasonably well, but because of the pre-season I ended up having a hernia operation by Christmas because I'd overworked. But in those days, you didn't know that. You just thought, it's your body and stuff. But now you just know that what I'd done in those first few weeks was just too much for my body. And the effect was I got injured and had an operation. But then by the, second and third year, things were settling down. Harry now comes in. And honestly, even then, like my start with him wasn't great because he said I could leave, after within the first few weeks of pre-season. And I had a decision to make, either just get my head down and work hard or just sulk. And I thought I'd get my head down. And then start of that season, Eddie Howe gets injured. I'm on the bench. I come on, playing a position I've never played before in defence, but it's on another side. And, long and short of it was we got promoted. I ended up getting Player of the Year. There's 7 or 8 Player of the Month awards you can win, and I won 6 of the 8 of the Player of the Month awards. So it was an amazing time. But I think the thing for me was knowing that I got an opportunity to play in the Premier League was special. But what really satisfied me that I'd been written off again and I'd made such an impact in a team that had stars in. So that was special. And then, the Premier League season, I didn't play a game until Christmas. I was like fuming, angry. Then stay in the team. And then after that, I wouldn't say I was first choice pick, but I was definitely one of the first names on the team sheet until Harry left. And you know what was amazing, Gareth? I watched most of my teammates that I played with in the last, say, 5 or 6 years of my career. I'd watched most of these on telly on Match of the Day. Now I'm in the dressing room with them, and that for me was amazing. But I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel lost by it. I just thought I deserved to be here. Not in an arrogant way. I just knew my journey to get there. I wasn't ever going to let it go. That was the thing. I knew the journey to get there was really hard, but I thought, this is it. I'm going to hold on now. And obviously the FA Cup. Within that, winning the FA Cup, I didn't get to play. I didn't get to play. I was injured that season, and I was disappointed because I've been involved in lots of big moments with the club. But I also realised I was part of a squad that now held the FA Cup, so I was going to enjoy it, and I did that. Those next couple of days, a bit hazy.
No, I remember that. I'm back Was that? I can't get it wrong now. Was that around 2008 or no?
Yeah, it was. It was 2008. It was. Yeah. And and even that, honestly, at times, right, we were that good that it was boring because we were that good. Because it's like, look at us just keeping the ball. Look at Pedro Mendes scoring. Look at David James saving. Look at Jermaine Defoe. Look at Crouch. So it was one of the.
And some names as well, wasn't
Oh,
they?
mate, I tell you what, you should. We had players that came on trial who were big names and didn't get signed.
Wow.
So there was loads that we signed, but there's loads that came and didn't get signed. And you're like, wow, what's he doing here? Amazing, absolutely. But that was what Harry had that little bit of charm to bring and bring guys in and get them to train and that. But yeah, it was. We always say, and I still see a lot of old colleagues from that era, and we always say there will never ever be a better time in football for Pompey, but just generally because the characters we had, the things we done, it was just, you couldn't, if you put all the stuff in a book, what we've done as a club, that don't happen. That don't happen. No way. But yeah, so really good times.
Brilliant. So just finish on that. What would you say, what was your biggest highlight in football, would you say? What was your biggest achievement?
Biggest highlight, I think, so you know what, your first professional contract's always huge. But I should say that, my introduction to being a pro was that my first contract, I was promised two things, I only got one of them. And that I realised at that moment, is this how they treat you? And you're one of their own, sort of thing. So this wasn't Pompey, by the way. This was when I was a schoolboy. And to that moment, just a little taste of, and I had little things like that happen along the way. So getting the contract was a great moment. But I just think, I always describe myself like a flannel or a towel, that the towel or the flannel got so wet, but I wrung every last drop to get to what I needed to get to. And I can turn around and say, you know what, the last, say, 8 years of my career, I never left nothing. There was nothing left on the pitch. There's nothing at all. Before that, I did, because I should have said, when I got, even though I got my professional contract at Charlton, 2 years later, I got released by it. I got told I wasn't surplus to requirements. So I went from hero to zero. But that moment was the first time I faced rejection. And because I knew that could come at any time, I played with a lot of fear and anxiety. So I played, but I didn't play to my fullest because I just couldn't. I was just too restricted. So anyway, but at the end, I'd definitely say that, I gave it all. It took me as far as it allowed me, and I got to see some amazing things. So I'd just say that I just gave it everything, and, all the things that I was able to achieve along the way is just a little nod to me to say, you know what, you were in this game a long time and you gave it everything. So yeah, I'd say there's too many highlights, but I'd say as a whole, that would be it, really.
Brilliant. Thanks, Linvoy. So I guess what are you doing now? I know, like, I've seen your football career, you've moved on, you do lots for charity, you're really passionate about, I guess, supporting the youth that are coming through football, disadvantaged children, etc. So yeah, what are you doing now, brief? What are you? Yeah,
so I'm doing now. So when I left the club as an ambassador in 2013, I think it was, I got asked to do some mentoring with some footballers, and it was more to do with players with faith, with a Christian faith. And I was doing that for about 8 years. And then as your network grows and you end up meeting coaches and stuff who got no faith but just want to talk. So I then started to do some work with the Football League. They've got an education arm. So that work was to mentor first year scholars. So they're 16 and 17, just left school, helping them to look at themselves, self-reflect, look at things outside their life that can help their life in football. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now, and I've just started doing some work with Dane Kelly Holmes Trust, working in a couple of schools, helping mostly the young people who find it difficult to attend. They attend, but they find it difficult to be there on time and things like that. So the project I'm involved with there helps focus that drive to get to school, really. And obviously doing some stuff with Fairways as well. So, which is pretty new. But I suppose the thing in life, I've realised that, we can do lots of things to do, to get by. But when you find the thing that you really want to do, it's never a job. It's never, you just do it. And, since 2013, I've never seen what I do as a job. I just help but what's great for me, I can go into any building, any football academy, any football club in the country, and I'll be welcome. But they know I'm not a threat because I don't want their job. I don't want to be a footballer. I don't want to be a coach. I don't want to be a manager. But what I do, what I really love doing is hearing you on your journey and giving you a sounding board, not for me to say this is what you should do, but actually to remind them that who they are in the job that they do and what they're looking for is already there. It's already inside them, but the measure's gone down. So it's trying to help them increase the measure. Say it's confidence. Yeah. How do you increase that? What can we do? What other things you like doing that can help that? And it's exploring those things. And so I found myself in that position now. I started a company doing the same thing where I'm trying to identify parents who are supporting young people on the performance pathway. So parents who are potentially their child is good enough to complete above club level. That could be athletics, it could be, football, tennis, whatever it might be. But that area of space I really see is where relationships with sports people and close people around them have to be tight, not because of the sport, because of the person. Because everybody, as they get more successful, everybody will notice that person for the success they have, maybe in the boxing ring and stuff like that, and their identity goes to that. But if the people that are close to them say, we know you do boxing, but you're a good artist as well. Do you know that, do you know you like bird watching, or do you know, you've got your dogs and you walk, whatever it might be, to let them understand that they're more than the job that they do. And I haven't come to know, epiphany in the night and gone, oh, that's what I want to do. But it's just seeing lives like across the range and thinking, you know what? When this finishes, you're going to be nowhere. You're going to be lost. So let's explore what that looks like before you get there, So,
I guess that. I love that, and we touched on that earlier, didn't we, in what you said about losing who you are because you're chasing the dream or you're chasing the sport, etc. And actually, I guess your lived experience is like you're trying to bridge that gap, mentor the people or the as well as parents, and in that reality about actually, yes, you are a great footballer or sport, but also you're also great at this, and actually you're a great person. And I love that. Really good.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it comes back down to it. Does somebody like you for what you do or like you? And that's the question I remember saying to my kids. When we got to the Premier League, our lives really changed because we went on holiday in Singapore, and a guy comes out of the pub, this bar, says, "Hey, you're on telly in there?" And I went, "What?" He went, "Yeah." He said, "We're probably." We went, "Oh, really?" I went, quickly walked off. But for the kids, they had to work out who their real friendships were through this because friends. Their so-called friends were saying, "Oh, can you get tickets? Can your dad sign this? Can you do that?" And they were getting confused. So, because all of a sudden they could have grown up in a place where my dad does this and my dad does that. But actually, we clearly said to them, no, dad is dad in the house. Outside he might be that to everybody else, but daddy's dad in the house. And, you know, and we didn't know what we were saying at the time. We just knew that we just wanted to try and keep it normal, because the Premier League can take you to somewhere where you think you're something and you're not.
Wow, yeah, no, brilliant. So you touched on it earlier. So exciting news. You are, you've decided to support Alpus and become an ambassador for Fairway. So
yeah,
really excited that we've got you as a legend on board, Linvoy. So we'll do a little bit more about that, and we'll do a little release on that. But yeah, you're there just to help support us and raise our profile. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
No problem.
I guess a couple of questions just to sort of start to finish off, because, you know, I guess the work you do now, you know, that mentoring and support, what's your why? What makes you do that? What makes you get out of bed and want to do that?
That's right. That's a really good question. So I think my why is that again, due to personal experiences, I really believe if I understood a little bit more of who I was, I would have believed in myself more, because I didn't believe in myself for a number of years. Even though I could go on the pitch and deliver something, I didn't believe in myself. And that's because I didn't have enough self-awareness. I was too scared to ask myself the truthful questions, because I knew what the answer were going to be. And I was too scared to let anybody else ask those questions, because I knew what the answer was going to be. But if I could have trusted myself to be able to say, okay, then this is what's needed, this is what we can do going forward, I think that would have been a lot more helpful for me, decision-making and things like that. And I just don't want, I think young people today, not just young people, let's look at this, people today have got so many choices and so many options to do things, but it's like we're being told, whether it's via social media, it's like, where do we think? When do we get time to think? Where do we get space to think? And what I've realized is that, and I've, you know what, it's nothing new. This is going on forever. When you take somebody out of their environment and give them space to think, the ideas they come up with, the way they feel about things, you know, like whether they've been realistic or unrealistic about things. But if you've not got a space to think about that, you know, we'll be told what to do all the time. So my why is definitely giving. I found space to think, and I had a good friend, still walks with me now, you know, in terms of our journey together, Mick Mellows. And, you know, some of the times we talk and we'd agree or disagree, or, you know, encourage each other, cry, laugh together, whatever it was. But we gave each other space to be able to talk. And I think that's what's missing now, to talk truthfully without any comeback, without thinking, oh, this is, you know, is this politically correct, or is this the right thing, you know, and stuff like that. So that's my why, that I really wished I had somebody in my life when I was at my most vulnerable, I'd say, to be able to say, it's going to be okay, you're going to be fine. That's all I needed. And I found it in myself occasionally, but something would come along, give me a little bruise, you know, it'd be like a bit painful. And I'd be like, oh, can I do it? You know, and then I'd go, I'll be all right. And then I get another bruise later, but not realizing that life is going to give you bruises. But how do you carry on walking through with those bruises so they heal and you're better? And that's my why, really. That's definitely my why.
I love that. And especially got that sentiment about space, just having that space to talk and just explore and be curious. And that's so important, isn't it? You know,
Sorry, Gareth, your volume's gone down. I can't hear you.
Sorry, mate.
That's it.
The big thing in Fairway are values, and about, you know, what's our core values and why we do what we do. So if I don't know why I say this, but I keep saying it. If you used to stick a rock, you know, used to get at the seafront, you snap it in half, and the word.
They still exist. Are they off the shelf? Are they gone down to that shrinkflation thing?
Probably. That big, that fiver. If not good at, but if we were to snap you in half, Linvoy, what's the values that run through you, would you say? What's your key?
What's the values? That's really good. That's really, really good. I'd say I don't know. I don't know if this is a value in itself, but I'd say like what you see is what you're going to get. So I want to say authenticity in terms of, you know, if I'm where I am and what I'm saying I'm going to do, but I also recognize that I'm this doesn't. It's going to sound a bit dramatic how I say it, but I also recognize that I'm broken. So what I mean by that, I'd love to be the perfect person with integrity and everything like that every second of the day, but I can't. It's impossible because I'll get in the car, someone pulls out in front of me, driving a bit too slow, my integrity's gone. But I'm consistent at that, so that might be integrity. But, you know, I just think, you know what, if I'm going to do anything, if you break me, if you know that what you see and get from the first minute is what you're going to get right the way through. And there are going to be a few bumpy bits, but I accept that. Where I thought, this is the thing, Gareth, I think this is the big thing for me. I thought I could be perfect. I think that's the thing. And what I meant by that, perfect performance, perfect in every area, perfect performance, perfect teammate, perfect player, perfect person that went to church. But like I said, I'm broken, you know, and there's lots of influences in my life that have shaped my thinking and make me react in certain ways, but I can accept that, whereas before I couldn't. And I think that's the thing now. There's more of an acceptance that Linvoy is Linvoy. He will improve, he will make mistakes, but you know, he's going to try his hardest to be, you know, everything that he says he's going to be and deliver. He's going to try his hardest to do that. And I think that's the way it be.
You know what, I think you're the first person that I guess, from that I've got honesty. And like we all say, you know, we're professional, we're this, we're that. And we are, majority of the time. We're also human. And like you said, you know, the car thing, we all, you know, we all get, there's always times where we feel that pressure or whatever. And I think for you to say that, and I think it's important that we hear people hear that, you can't be perfect all the time.
No, we've got to be prepared to be vulnerable, because if we're not, how can anyone be vulnerable in our role, Gareth, as well? And I don't mean this in, you know, we're CEOs or anything like that, but I mean as men in the community, if we can't show vulnerability to, you know, the younger generation, how can they show any vulnerability, you know, as they're coming through? So we have to show it. And if it's something that we can't do because we feel it's a weakness, then we've got to really ask ourselves, why is it a weakness? Who's told us being vulnerable is a weakness? Who's put that over us? Because the reality is, being vulnerable is a weakness if you choose it to be, or it's a strength because you can actually say, you know what, I can't do this.
Definitely. No. Lovely work. Thanks, Linvoy. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, last question.
Hey, you know, when we have this barbecue, we'll be talking all night.
Okay, mate.
No one else will get a word in, mate.
In everyday life, it's so chaotic, and we talk about mental health and stuff like that. So what do you do for your own well-being, or what do you suggest?
That's good. So fortunately, I'm able to do a little bit of driving to go to the clubs, the football clubs. So I love music. You know, and I grew up, right, where I couldn't have a record player, but my brother did. So I had to sit outside his room listening to his records, right? Never knew who the artists were. Yeah, I know, never knew who the artists were, just had this music playing, right? So now, and I had a little spell where I stopped listening to the music that I grew up on, just, you know, as you do. Anyway, I started to revisit, and that's really helped me just, I wouldn't say not think as in I don't want to think about anything, but it just keeps me in that place of nice memories of music and stuff. So a lot of my thing for my well-being is remembering what made me smile as a kid, you know, like with my cousins and stuff. Like I've reconnected with some of my cousins now because that's what sport does as well. It takes you away from your family, because I was away every weekend, so I never saw them for years, really. So that's been real helpful. And Gareth, I think this is the one thing I've learned, and this is the well-being thing for me. I look out for things that you're not supposed to see when you're driving. So what I mean by that, one of the things I say to the young people I meet, I say, what have you seen different this week? And they're like, well, and I say, I tell you what I saw? Blossom. And they're like, what? I said, blossom. I said, haven't you seen it on the trees, you know?
And in my garden this week.
Oh, lovely. I want a picture of that, by the way. So, because that's unique. That happens once a year. Beautiful. So anyway, so I said to them this time, when I go back in, I say, did you see? And they say, yeah. So I said, guess what I saw this week? And they're like, oh, what's this? I said, roadkill. And they're like, what? I said, all these badgers. I said, these poor badgers, they're all like next to the road. Like, oh. I said, I feel so sorry for them. And they're honestly, these kids are looking at me, because they're from London, some of them. They're looking at me and go, what's a badger? And then they say, is it something that comes after you? And I say, no, they'll only come after you. But it's noticing those things, the things, and I'll finish with this, Gareth, because this is why I try to notice these things, because the world is so quick that we can miss so much, so many amazing things. And I remember just before I retired, Tony Adams was the manager at Pompey. He's only there a short time. I'd come back, I think, on loan from being on loan at Charlton. And I knew really that my legs had gone. I knew it. And I remember I had 2 dogs walking through the woods, and all of a sudden my head was down. It was a 3 o'clock time, because I don't want to listen to the results. And I remember looking up, and I'm not joking, it was like I'd just walked into a blossom forest. And for that moment, I thought, how comes I've not seen this before? And it's because my head had been down with football, with life for so long, that I was missing lovely things around. So I think that's one of the, and I've only recently learned this, looking out for the things that are unusual, because it reminds you that, you know what, your world is big and what you do is big, but there's much more out there, and you've got to see it. So, so I'd say notice the unnoticeable things.
Absolutely. I think that's great. I think we can all do that, don't we? We all get guilty of work, and actually just being present. I think that's what it's being present in the moment and actually being. I think that's so important. So thanks, Linvoy.
Bless you, Gav. Cheers, mate.
I really appreciate you coming on, your time. You're a legend.
No
obviously, there'll be more stuff coming out soon about fairways, and we'll see your face about more. So thank you for your support.
No worries.
Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up soon.
We will. Thank you, mate. Cheers.